Good. Yeah, so excited, right? Well, for some of you, can also feel a little bit challenging and maybe overwhelming as well, but no stress at all. So at the beginning, you may feel a little bit overwhelming because we are learning a new language, but very soon you will find that learning a second programming language is much easier than learning the very first programming language. Yep. Okay, so let's have a look at that. Let's start with this disclaimer. I think this is important. Because all of you have learned C, you learned C, right? Yes. So we will teach JavaScript very quickly, and we will focus on what are the differences and looking at how what JavaScript looks like. So you do not need to understand everything that I talk about today on JavaScript. JavaScript is a much more powerful programming language than C. So you may feel like you do not understand everything about JavaScript, so different from what you, how you learn C. But you can always search online for the syntax, for the functions or the libraries that you can use. And we also, like even till the end of the term, we still do not expect you to know everything about JavaScript. We just focus on how to solve the problem, how we can use JavaScript to solve the problem. All good? Yeah, I just do not want to overwhelm you. And why we learn JavaScript? This course was originally designed in Python. So now it's changed to JavaScript. It's because JavaScript is getting more and more popular in industry. So this course, 1531, is a very industrial course. We try to use what is used in industry. And JavaScript is getting more and more popular. One reason for that is because we have increasing number of web-based applications or web-based softwares. So what is web-based software? For example, your Gmail, your shopping, online shopping websites like eBay, and also Google Doc, Google Spreadsheets. So these are all web-based applications or web-based softwares. And JavaScript is getting increasingly popular and massively used in those web-based software. So JavaScript is popularly used for both front-end and back-end. So originally JavaScript is popular for front-end development, but now we can also, more and more people are also using JavaScript for the back-end development. So it's very powerful for the web-based applications. So this is a quick look at how JavaScript looks like. We will have look at more examples today. And JavaScript is also because it's widely used in industry, it also getting more like open source libraries. People are using JavaScript a lot, and they are creating this rich open source library and package managers that we can use. So there are a lot of resources online that we can use when we program and use JavaScript. So we can build app quite quickly. And JavaScript is also very high level. So high-level language are easy to use and quickly, quickly to, we can develop the software more quickly. Yeah. Yes, I think we have mentioned this, that JavaScript is used by a large number of software engineering companies. So JavaScript is the language of the web. Okay, so what's the difference between C and JavaScript? So there are a couple of hurdles that we need to overcome. The first one is it does not have types. So in C, we need to define whether a variable is int, whether it's what type is it. But in JavaScript, we do not have type. So you do not need to declare the type of your variables. JavaScript has object-oriented components. What is object-oriented? So there's another course teach object-oriented. So we can somehow ignore it here. JavaScript does not deal with pointers. Yay! JavaScript is often written as a higher level. We will see examples. JavaScript does not have intermediate completion step like C. So it's easy to run the code. Okay, now the difference. So this is how JavaScript and JavaScript and C compares. Okay, so how can we call the functions in JavaScript? So you have learned C, but how we call the functions is a bit different. So let me show you. This is the compare one. So you have all the code used in the lecture available on the slide. So you can go to the course website and you download the slide, and then you can get all of the code that we use in the lecture. So this is the function compare 1.js. Okay, so in JavaScript we use console log. So console log is the same to print or printf. Okay. So now let's run the program. So this is it. Like we want to print out the minimum of A and B, and now we gave the inputs of 5 and 7, and then larger node 1.4 compare -2.js, and we have the output return 5. Okay, so now you may ask, what is node? Right, what is node here? Like when we run the JavaScript file, like what is the node? Let's go back to the slide. So Node.js is more formally, like Node.js is a command line interface that interprets JavaScript code with a runtime environment that is built on Google Suite Engine. What is that? So let's use a more singular explanation. Node.js is the program that compiles and runs JavaScript. So the two steps together, we do not need to compile first and then run the code. So Node and the file's name, the JavaScript file's name, it will compile and run the JavaScript file. So it's similar to, okay. Yeah, so the program is compiled and run as part of the same step, like what we have seen here. Node the file name and we'll return the value 5. So it'll be a little bit slower to run comparing to C. However, it's more convenient. Okay, so now let's have a look at more examples and learn more about JavaScript. The first thing that we are going to learn is variables, how we can declare variables and how we print out information. Variables.js. Okay, so here's a couple of new things that we need to learn. First one, what is let? So we mentioned that JavaScript do not have type. So what is let here, and what is the const here? So when we declare a variable to be let, meaning that we can change the value of years later. So for example, we initiate the years as 5, and then we can change the years maybe to 6. So we can do that. There's no problem with that. However, if we declare a variable as const, it means that we cannot modify the value of that variable later. Okay, so let's have a try. For example, I want to change the name into age will be easier. Let's change the name in age into 20. And when I run this file, variables.js, it will be an error message. Okay, so I cannot change the value of name or age if we declare the variable to be const. So this is the difference, like when we declare the variables. And this is how we print in JavaScript. We use console log. Quite straightforward. So we can console log the years. Let's have a try. Node.js. Okay, so we print out hello and how are you as well. So you can see that hello, we have single quote with hello, and we have double quotes for how are you. So they are the same in JavaScript, like when we use the strings. The double quotes and single string, we can use them interchangeably. Okay. So this will be our first example. It's not too different from C, right? Okay. Now let's have a look at the strings. Strings. So this is our code. And we can let sentence start with my, and then we declare the sentence as let, so we can change the value of it. So we can change, like sentence, we add name after my, and then I add Pikachu afterwards. And then I can console log this sentence. I will comment this part, and then let's just try this very first part. Node.js, the file name is strings, and we can see that my name is Pikachu. Yeah, so this is how we use strings. Let's have a look at the second example. Here, comment the first one. So there's another way of mix variables and the strings. So we can create something called a string literal. To use string literal, it's not quotes. It's not single quote or double quote. We use the backstick, so that we can use the string literals within. So we can use the variables within the string literals. So when we change the value of my name, it can be changed accordingly. And we can also, let's have a try first. So my name is Pikachu, and I'm 7, so the age here. So this is also another way of putting strings together. Yep, question. So your question is, can we just use my name is my name and I am?
We need to still put a dollar and the curly brackets in the console.log.
Is this what you mean?
Yes.
Let's have a try. It works. Yeah. That's a good question. Okay, so this is strings. Quickly, we can move on to the next one. Okay, so the interesting one that we is the literal. So we use the backsticks rather than the quotes to define a string. And it's provide an easy way to put the variables and the expressions into the strings. Next one is the control structure. So here the examples are very much similar to the C type of control structure. We have the first one, the if, else, if, and else. Yep. And we also have the while loop, the for loop. I don't know what to explain here. It's just so similar to C. Any questions? All good? Just very similar to C, right? So we can move on to the next one. Okay, another very similar to C one. So how we can define functions in JavaScript. So we have the key function here, the name of your function, and what are the parameters that you want to put into the function, like A and B, and then you return some value when we call the function. Yep. Okay, I've got some questions from online. What about why should we avoid that? Yeah. I don't want to confuse you. So for now, we only need to learn about let and const when we declare variables. So var is another way of declare variables. But for now, just let and const. Next question is, can you use my name is $my name and I am $age as well? Yes, you can. It's the same. Do you want to also see the questions from online? So here are the questions. Next question is, so are the if-else statement identical to that of C? In this example, it's nothing different from C. But we will learn other ways of using control structures in JavaScript in the later lectures. But for now, in this very simple example, like we start with, it's the same with C. The difference here may be the console log, like how we print out the values. Okay. Okay, so now let's move on to a little bit. I'm so sorry. I'll just quickly repeat for our online students. I'm so sorry about that. So we have two types of data structures. Collections. Okay, so this time, what about you explain to the online students about the difference of the different type of collections? What is the sequential collections? So in sequential collections, the values are referenced by their integer index. Also, we call the key. Okay. So the values stored in the sequential collections, they have an order. They have located in an order. For example, at index S, we have P, index 1 R, index 2 is O. So they are in a specific order. We cannot change the order. And in associative collections, there's no such order. And they are not indexed by, they are not referenced by their index. They are referenced by the name, the key. So we call it a key. So the name is Sally, the age is 18, height is 187, and we can change their order. So there's no inherent sense of order. Okay, cool, great. So people are caught. Yeah. Okay, sorry, online. Okay, so now let's come back to this one. So array is a special variable, similar to the variable that we have seen before, but it have an order. Can you tell me which one of Juliana, Rennie, and Time is located at index 1? Rennie, yes. Please be careful here. So sometimes we may think, well, index 1 is Juliana. However, Juliana is sitting at index 0 instead of index 1. Okay, so now let's have a try at the code. Array.js. Okay, we are here now. So this is an array. So this is an example of array. And also another thing about array is all the values in an array, they are of the same type. So Juliana, Rennie, and Tam. There's no tab actually. Okay, cool. So let's console log. Let's try the first one. Let's console log this name array and see how it looks like. ARRAYS. What do you think it will be console logged? Sorry? All the names. Okay. Yes. Yes, because we also have 1 here. So we had 1 and then Juliana, Rennie, and Tam. And then let's console log the second one, which should start with a 2. And it should console log 2 and Juliana? Yep. Yeah, 2 Juliana. Okay, another thing that we can do here is we can change the value through names, the index, and the value that we want to change it to. So we have name 2, and we can change it to tem. Right. So let's console log the name again after we change tem to tem. Okay, so it become tem. So this is how we change the value in an array. Question?
Why can we change tem if it's a constant? Because we can change the value of the array even though it's a constant.
Yes.
So what about it being a constant? Can you not change the constant array? You can't change the length, or
That's a very good question. So let me repeat the question. So why we declare name as constant, but we can still change the value within an array? Right. Have a guess? Like anyone have an idea? Yay!
What's constant in the input string is the pointer to the array. So you can't point to a different array, but you can still change what's in the array.
Great. It's a better explanation than the one I prepared. So let me repeat that. So the const is a pointer to, like when we declare the const, it's like we declare the pointer to the name. So we cannot change, so we cannot point to the another array, but we can still change what's in the array. Yeah? Okay. Yeah, question?
Can you put different data types in an array? Like first one is second one is second one is string, and third one is an array.
Let's have a try. That's another very good question. Have a guess. Do you think it can be a lot?
Yeah.
Yes?
What? In JavaScript.
In JavaScript, there's no type, right? Yeah. Okay, so let's have a try. What about we change Rainy to 1111111? Can we do that?
And
Yes?
the fourth one put an array inside.
Sorry?
Fourth one put the fourth, like index 3, put an array there. After 10.
After 10, you want to add something.
Array, yeah, an array.
Add another array.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you mean?
Another array with 2 integers inside.
So you want to have another array.
No. Inside the array.
Inside the array, you want to have an array.
Yes.
Let's try the first one and then let's try the second one, okay? Yes, the integer, so there's no type actually in JavaScript, so it doesn't matter. So let's change this back to Rainy. And you mean after time we add an array? Is that what you mean? Is that your question? Like after time we add another array within the array? You're not sure about your question? Okay, it's okay. We can discuss after the class. Okay, so now we've learned how to change a value in an. Yeah, question.
Can we do something like names square bracket 0 equals names?
Sorry?
Names square bracket 0 square bracket equals names.
I don't really get your question. Sorry.
You're saying you want to put all of the names
Uh-huh.
as a array inside the first index of that array of them. So you're putting the array inside itself. That's what you're saying.
Sorry?
So could I tell you what's right? Can I tell you what's right?
Yeah.
So names bracket 0.
Do you want to come in front and tap on the? Jonathan, right? Jonathan.
Yeah.
Names? Ah, you put, okay, that's an interesting one. Okay, let's have a try. It becomes Stray, Giolina, Rennie, and blank. And then, oh, I should comment this one. And try again. Become Giolina, Rennie, and start from index 2, there's no more. It's pretty weird, right? Yeah, we can have a look at that after the class. Yeah. Because we will need to continue and move on to the others. Okay, so now another interesting one is, what if I want to add more after temp? So there's one, we are talking about new stuff now, new things now. So we can use name dot push, and we can push something at the end of the array. So this is something that you might have never seen in C. Right, so we do not have, so it's like a function, a method that we called. And it's called names.push, so we can push something at the end of the array. So this is one of the array methods. There are also other array methods that we will also have see later today, and we'll also explain more. So this is the first example, like the first time we saw in this course, like the array method. Okay, so we can also use array with loops. So using array with loops is a pretty powerful one. This is also what the powerful way in arrays. Without arrays, we may have like design, we make constant item 1 equals A, constant item 2 equals B, constant item 3 equals to C. And then it's very hard when we want to loop through different values. But with array, we can loop in the values in the array. Okay, so this is how we loop in the array. So similar to C-tab loops, while loops. So while I smaller than 5, and we console log the item I, so add the index I in the item. Another way is using for loop. So this is also similar to C. And okay, so another array method. Okay, so we have learned the push method, array push method, push to the back of the array. So there's another array method called length. So using dot length, the length method, we can know the length of the array. So how many items are in the array. And it's useful when we have a very large array, like we do not know beforehand, like we should loop 0 to 4. We did not know that before, and then we can use item.length for the in our loop. Any questions? Okay. Another interesting, so we are also going to use this knowledge in your labs, which is for in loop and for off loop. Can I have your attention, please? Shh. Okay, so we have for in loop and for off loop. So this is something different from C, that we might not have seen those before. So both are useful when we loop through the arrays. But for in statements, this one is the for in. It loops through the properties of an array. So when we use for in, so I will be the index, so the I will become 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. However, when we use the for off loop, it will loop through the values of an array. Okay, so they will loop through item I will be A in the first circle, and then it will become B and C and D and E. So we can console log directly the item I instead of item the bracket I. Yep. Yep. Okay, so now let's move on to something new, which is called object. Before we start to introduce what is object and how to use object in JavaScript, have any of you tried to work on the Lab 01 academic? Yep. 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 So you might have already seen some objects, right? So let's have a look at this real life example. So imagine that we have a car, okay? So the car is an object. And the car will have some properties, like its name, Fiat, its model, 500, its weight, and its color. So these are the object's properties. We also have some objects method, like start, drive, brake, and stop. So this is similar to what we have seen in the array method, right? We have the array that length, array that push, right? So this is objects method. All cars will have the same property. They have name, they have model, but the value of the properties can be different. Okay? And they will also have some method, but they may perform at different times. So variables are containers of full value, data value, as we've seen before, like const name equals to Sally, and we have always also seen arrays as variables. So array is also another type of variable, and objects are variables too. Okay, but objects can contain many values. Here's an example. Const car. So this is the associative collection of, like we talk about two types of data collection. The first one is array, and the second one is the object. So they are not referenced by their index. So not the first one is Fiat, the second one is 500, but they are indexed by their name. So type is Fiat, model is 500, and color is white. So this is the associative collection. And the values are written as name, the column, and value pairs. They're written in the pairs. And it's also a common practice to declare the objects with the const keyword. So it's not required, but it's a common practice. Okay, so the objects are mutable associative structures that may consist of many different types. For example, we can change the order of the type and the model. We have model first and then type later in an object. And you can use them when you need a collection of items that are identified by strings, like they are identified by name, they are identified by score, identified by rank, when we have, for example, a collection of users' data. Right? So for users' data, we may have name, age, height, marks, right? And we can store them within the objects. Okay, so this is one example. Like we have students whose name is Emily, their score is 99 and rank 1. Let's have a try running this code. Objects. Okay, so I'll comment this, and let's try console log this object first and see how it works. Objects. It'll be name, score, rank, so everything in this object will be printed out, console logged. What if we only want to console log the name of this student? So it will be student.name. We will get the value of the name in the student. So it will be Emily. And similar, we can have their score and also their rank. Make sense? All good? All good? All good? Okay, cool. Great. Questions? What are the questions? why is item dash I when the array was called item? Naming doesn't matter. Okay, cool. Not many questions online. Okay, so now what else we can do is we can add new items in the object. So now we only have name, score, and rank. What if we also want to add another new one? It's like pushing to an array, right? But there's no order, so we are not push at the back of the array, but we just put another value pair in the object. So we put student.hat159. Okay. And then we can console log the information about the students again and see like we have another new one, which is hat added to the students object. All good? What does dot include do? We do not have a dot include. Yep, I'm not sure what question is here. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. So there are two different ways like how we can populate objects. So in the left-hand side, we can start with an empty object. We just declare the user data object. And then we add information, add values to the user data. We add their name, add their hat, and add their age. So this is one way. Another syntax is we start with everything. Like we directly put everything in the object. But then we can still modify it. We can still add things to it. So it's still fine. But this is just different ways, different syntax. And we can also mix the two methods. So another syntax. So line 1 and line 2, they are doing the same thing, just different syntax. So if you have seen this in your lab examples or seen people writing like this, so you just know that they are doing the same thing. And in the example here and here, we are just putting the line 1 and 2 to some like more complex examples. Any questions so far? Okay, Kevin, I will come back to your question later. We'll see examples that will answer your question. Okay, so now let's have a look. Another new concept. A lot of new things today, I know. Just try to get an overall understanding of JavaScript, and then you can practice using the labs and then the project, and then you will know how to use them. I will just introduce you to them today. So the concept that we are going to see is the object functions. Okay, so similar like we have seen the array.length, array.push, and now we've seen the object.keys. So get the keys of the user data and get the entries of the user data and the values of the user data. Let's have a look how it works. Object props 1. Okay, so here is it. So let's start with the keys. Props. Oops. Props 1. Okay, so the keys in this object are name, age, and hat. So the keys in this object, so we can get the keys in this object, and we can also get the entries of the project. So why we are introducing the object.keys, object.entry, and the object.values here? Because if you want to you want to use some of the values in the user data. Like when you have a big user data, you want to access some of the values. So how can you get access to them? So you can use, for example, the object.keys. So you can see that it returns an array. So you can use, for example, object.keys and then index 0, and you can get name in the object. So this is how you can reference to the information in that object. So why we are introducing them here. So let's have a try the entries. So this is what will be returned in the entries. Yeah. And values will be just Sally 18 and 187 cm. Yep, all good, all good. I'm just trying to introduce you to this, and then you can use those for your lab and your major project. Okay, so now let's have a bit further discussion of the object. The following coding. So we have already seen this, right, in the examples in the array. So these are the array method. We have seen the array.length, array so what array dot includes to? Oh, I see your question. Okay, let's have a look at the object.model. Oops. Where is it? I lost it. So what are these? So these are all array method. So we have seen push to the end, but there are also ways like we can add a value at the beginning of an array. We can also get the, for example, index 0 to index 2, the value of add index 0 to index 2. We can also slice them, get part of them, add more data at the end, in the middle, or in the beginning. So these are all array methods. So array is an array, but it also seems to have like the object method. So in JavaScript, we can think like everything in JavaScript is an object. So object has properties, object has method, as we saw in the example of the car, right? So it has properties, the car object has properties, the car object also has method. So everything in JavaScript, we can think of it as an object. So array, you can also think of it as an object. Okay. And an object will have properties, like its name, its color, so these are properties. And an object will also have functions, like the method, like drive, or in an array we saw the length, the push, they are the method. And in the object we also see the object dot, the keys, right? So this is the example. So can we define our own object? Like, can we define our own object method? So it is, yeah, we can do, but it's not, we cannot cover that much in this course. So, yeah, but you can learn that if you are happy to, and if you have time. And the other question is, does that mean that JavaScript is object-oriented? The answer is, it's not a pure object-oriented language. So Java is an object-oriented language. So C is purely non-object, so it's purely a procedural language. Well, JavaScript is something in the middle. It has some object-oriented capabilities. Okay, so this may be something quite similar to your lab academic, the user data is in your lab academic. So we kind of have objects in arrays. So user data here is an array, since you can see the bracket here. So it's an array, but we have objects in the array. So let's have a look at this example, object.loop. Here is the example. So in the user data, we have two users' information stored in this array. One is for Sally, age is 18 and 186 height, and the other one is for another student, and also we can add more to it. So it's very flexible, like how we store this data in JavaScript. We have seen the keys, but let's have a look again. object loop 1. Okay, so this is what returns. So when we console log the object.key of user data, the key here, so the key of this array, right? Because user data is an array. So the key of this user data is 0 and 1, right? And the entries here will be including the key and also the value at each index. So it will be 0 and the object of Sally, and 1 the object of Alice there. Okay. Any questions so far? Yeah.
What's the difference between object and struct, and what's the difference between method and function? Like, seems that the method is inside the object, so use a dot instead of something and then a bracket. So what's the difference between method and function, and the difference between struct and object?
So the question is, what's the difference between method and function?
Yeah.
It's a terminology question. Okay. So we can define a function, and we can even define a function within an object, but it's not covered in this course. So we use the already so JavaScript defined functions for those objects. For example, the array.length, the array.the push, and also the object.keys and object.entries.
And besides, you didn't use the function for each array. How do you use the function? Or they are already built by JavaScript?
Yes, they are already built in. So we do not need to define, for example, the array.push. We do not need to define them ourselves. It's built in. Yeah. 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 Question. Sorry. What about variables? Varies. Variables. Varies. Which variables? No. Values. Whose value? Objects values. Did you mean property? Yeah. So your question is? How do we access the object's values? Is that what your question?
We want to know what is object variables.
Can anyone help me understand the question here? It's okay, like we can discuss afterwards. Yeah. Because we all need to, yeah. Other questions? There are a couple of questions online. Okay, I think the chats in the online questions are not really questions, but they are discussions. Okay, so it's good, like students online, they are trying to answer to each other's questions in the comments. Let's leave it after the class and we can discuss your question. Okay, so another thing is, what if I want to get access to the value of the first object within the user data? So I want to know the first object in user data and its value of name. So the way we do that is through user data at the index 0.name, and then we can get Sally. All right. All good? Yeah, we will use this, we can use this in loops. So for example, we want to loop through all the names in a user data. Okay, so we have a big user data and we have a lot of objects in it, and I want to get all the names. How can we do that? So this is how we get each of them. So you just need to have a loop and change the index here in the array. Okay. And the same, like we want to get all the age, all the class, and whatever. So this is how we get it. Okay, so another interesting here, you can see that in this user data we have 2 objects, and within the 2 objects we have different properties. So this is also very powerful. So we can have different properties in the different objects within an array. Yep. Okay, cool, great. If no question, we can move on to try some others. Yeah, so this is the one that I just mentioned. Like after we know how we can get access to the value within the objects in the array, we can use that in a loop. So here is the loop that I just mentioned. Okay, so before I explain this loop, let's first try out what can be printed out. So what we are doing here. So this is what being printed out in the loop. So we had Sally's properties are name, age, height, and Alistair's properties are name, age, height. So this is what it printed out using the loop. And the loop looks like this. Okay, so again we use the user data.length because we do not need to manually calculate how many objects are there in the array. We can just use user data.length for the loop, and within the loop we can console log user data I, like the first the i's the object at index I and the name in the object. And this is also an example of how we use the literals for the strings, right? The backticks. So user data I dot names properties are, and then console log in another line name dot dot, and another example of how we use the string literals here. Right? We print out the name, their age, and their height. So we can loop through the objects in the array and get your data, get your values. Okay, all good. Yeah, this is very powerful. Like when we have a lot of data and we can run through them using arrays and objects together. Okay, so here's the example, like how we can give a name to the property. So here we use objects in arrays. So there's another way, like do this. The similar thing is we do not use arrays anymore. We put objects in object. Okay, so we put object in object, and in this the user data object we have 2 objects here, and the first property is Sally, and the second property is Bob, and in each property we have the object's values, which are age and height again. So objects in object. Remembering that object is the associated collection, right? So we can just give. So it's not referenced by index, it's referenced by like the property's name. So this property we can name it as anything like Sally, Bob, and we can also even have other name of the property. For example, we have, all the jobs is not a name. Normally we do not do this, but I'm just trying to show you it's just a name of the property. So you can define whatever you want, like makes sense to you, and you can have others in this object. Okay, and we can also have arrays in object. Let's see an example. Bob has some hobbies, and its value is soccer. What are they? Oh, I should have the codes. Soccer. What are the other hobbies? YouTube? Okay. What? Sorry?
Oh, that's not
Oh, YouTube. How to spell YouTube? Y-O-U-T-U-B-E? Yeah, oh, thank you. Okay, so we can also put arrays in the object. So it's very flexible, quite powerful. So we can store the data in different ways. Yeah, I think the question is clear online, so far at least. Okay, so we can have another loop to loop through the data within the object user data to get access to the values in the object. And this is how we do it. So we use a for in loop. Remember that we talk about for in loop and for off loop. So the different type of loops in JavaScript. And here we use the for in loop. Okay. We loop through the properties in user data, and we console log. So let's have a try. So this is the loop 3. Yeah. So we cannot print out the same thing as the previous example, right? But different ways of writing the code in JavaScript. So for all the questions, we may have different solutions to it. And also in the lab or the major project, we look at the interface. So as long as the interface is following the requirements, it will be fine. Like, what do you write inside? So we have a lot of different solutions to a same question. Okay. Here's just one more, a little bit more complex example, but they are trying to do the same thing. Like, we are combining everything together. Yep. Okay. Let's have a look at this one. Oops, wrong one. Combining. So we have a couple of students, and we store the student 1 as an object, student 2 as an object, and the name and the score are the properties, and they each have the value like running and 99. And then we can console log the students, and we can also put the object in the array, as in line 5. So this is also another way, like we can define the object first and put the object in an array. So after we put them in an array, they are ordered. So they have an order, they have an index. What are we trying to do here? So we want to console log which student got an HD. So if their score is larger than 85, and then we print out their name and they got an HD. So there are two ways. Okay, so here we can see the example, another example, for off and for in. Yep. What should I explain here? Let's have a try first. 1.4 combining dot j. Oops. 1.4 combining. Did I have a typo? Combining. No typo, right? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm accessing the wrong file.
I know.
Huh?
In your second folder, it is constant student I in student instead of students.
Oh, the student. So, line 25.
It's not students.
Students. No, not this one.
No, 25.
25. Oh, students. Yes. Right. Great. Thank you. Okay, so now let's run this again. Great. So this is what, no, combining. Student is not defined. I should have a student.
Also line 26.
26.
The student.
Here, right? Okay, thank you.
I think also
Also,
just 27.
27. Student's name. Thank you.
Student underscore I.
Sorry, where?
26.
26?
27.
27?
It shouldn't be student's dot name. It should be student underscore I dot name.
Student underscore I
Yeah.
dot student dot name. Thank you. Oh wow, amazing. Huh?
Square brackets, student underscore.
Sorry?
It should be line 27 is student square bracket, student underscore R.
Here.
No, line 27.
Here.
Then before the student underscore R, there should be student square bracket, student underscore R.
Students. Is this right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Oh, how good now. Finally, eventually. Wow. Oh, looks like there's nothing I need to explain. You already got it. Okay, cool. Okay, so here we just combine the two types of for off and for in. So you can see the difference. For off, we loop through the values of the arrays, and for in, we loop through the properties of the array. Yep, yep. Yep, thank you, online. You are also trying to help me find the problem. Great, thank you. Yep, I don't know what I should explain here. It's just put what we have learned so far together, like the for loops, the string literals, how we use arrays, how we use objects, and also the array methods. Yep. Okay. Question? Sorry, I can't.
So, for the code, you have indents where each thing is like 2 spaces.
Uh-huh.
Should we do that or we just
You mean the format?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. So one part of this course, we will learn about linting. So we need to have good styles in our code. So it's helpful for ourselves to read, helpful for others to read, and also helpful for us to identify if there's a potential something wrong. So if we keep the good coding style. While we are trying to write code, try your best to write like consistent style code. So as long as it's consistent within your code, it should be fine. However, in some large organizations, so they have some standard of the style, and different organizations may have different standard. So maybe you work in this industry, another industry, they will have different standard. So for now, as long as it's consistent, that will be considered as a good coding style. And we'll also learn about linting in this course. So it will be automatically help you have good styles in your code. We'll learn that, okay, in the future lecture. Yeah.
What does the for count of the students mean? Like that line?
Which
line 19?
Line 19?
Yeah. Like what does the count and of mean? There?
So this is an internal variable. So this variable only lives within this for loop. So it's not a global like.
If you change the students to I, like for I constant I of the students.
It's the same.
That's the same.
Yes.
And the students is the so it's just find every term inside the students.
Every term inside students.
Yeah, find every term inside students.
For of loop through the values in the arrays.
So does it mean every term in the name the student as the average each term of the student?
Well, sorry, I didn't really get your question. What about we discuss after the class, and you can explain to me your question. Otherwise, that's all for today. I put a link in the slide. You can find some further reading on the array of objects, like how we use arrays in object and object in arrays. Okay, that's all. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I don't really quite get what's the difference between for